Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Collector's Vault. My name is Mike, and today we are not doing anything collectible and card related. I know I'm kind of overdoing one of those videos, but today I want to talk about video games, specifically Metroid Dread to be even more specific. So, sorry. So if you are one of my Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh collectible viewers, I'm sorry. This video is going to be a bit of a deviation. We're going back to Metroid. I've talked about Metroid before on the channel. So this video is specifically talking about David Jaffe and his comments on Metroid Dread, because obviously it's been one of the more talked about points the last week and maybe even 2 weeks by now. So he had some very interesting comments on the game, but the thing is that they weren't just simply comments talking about what he thought about the game, if he liked or disliked it. Some of his comments I felt were where he was trying to sound very they were very objectively driven, where it wasn't okay, I didn't like it, this is not a game for me. Which by all means, if that's the thing with anything, if you don't like it, you're not forced to like it. If he just simply said, oh, this is not the game for me, I'm not good at it, and I just don't really want to play it anymore for reasons X, Y, and Z, no problem. Yeah, there's plenty of games that I don't like. It's just not a game for me. And I know Metroid, the Metroidvania, the 2D Metroidvania games are not for everyone. No problem. But the problem that my issue specifically is that he makes all these points explaining why he doesn't like the game, but it's more like he tries to objectively say, this is just a bad game, this is bad design, and I'll go into all the details. He mentioned how the art style was bad and bland, which again, that's a very subjective topic. But the point is, I have a couple key points that I want to talk to you guys about. I'm gonna be jumping through this video, and I know he made other videos kind of going back and re-reviewing what he talked about. But basically, his point still stands that he did nothing wrong. The game is just bad, and he should know because he's a game designer and he knows game design, and that. There is some truth that, yes, he is a game designer. He has obviously a good understanding of how games should be designed, but not all games are designed the same way. Especially going from the God of War games that he made compared to a Metroid game. But anyway, enough of that. Let's just get into this, and I'm gonna kind of mention my. I don't want to say I'm gonna say how every single thing he says is wrong. But I'm going to just kind of give a counter-argument as to why you can't objectively say this is a bad game. Subjectively, you can not like it, but objectively, these points just don't make any sense, and it's very infuriating. So anyway, let's get started. I think the first point is where he talks about how he was getting stuck.
It's a sign I don't, because that's ridiculous. I deleted it, played it for about 2.5 hours. Here's why I didn't like it. Okay, so I got to a part, and I was going to capture a video, but I've already deleted it. I got to a part where I was stuck, and I'm playing it on the stream.
This video is online
and
still.
Some guy says, you can go back and look at it people are enough curious.
He said he deleted
and they're
it. So,
oh, you need to shoot the ceiling. And I'm like, why would I shoot the ceiling? And lo and behold, they told me to go to this certain room, and I couldn't advance. I was totally stuck. And they're like, go to this room and shoot the ceiling. I'm like, okay. Now, for an Easter egg, sure, but no, that was the way to proceed. The ceiling suddenly, popped open and gave way to some destroyable blocks, and then I was able to continue. And I'm like, how in the world was I to know I'm supposed to shoot that fucking ceiling? And it didn't stand out. It didn't look like a piece of, sometimes the lighting or the texture on the model makes it look like it's interactable. It just blended in perfectly. So that was kind of the point where after I'd spent 30 minutes looking for where to go next, I was like, maybe it was on the map. Maybe. That's the only thing I can think of that I didn't check. And that would have been, I guess, my fault. But I don't remember looking at the map and seeing that breakable part yellowed or called out. So assuming I'm right and it wasn't on the map, basically what the game was telling me was, hey, you're 2.5 hours in. And you are playing a game where you could get stuck, and your only solve might be to go through the 200 rooms you've opened and just start shooting everywhere in hopes that something opens up, right?
All right, so here's where I jump in. So yes, this is the scene that he's talking about. And actually, I have to give credit to Future Nightmares, because he made a little video about this. And of course, it's not loading. Wait, does this thing keep playing? Oh, I had a nice little shot right here. Darn it. Here we go. So I have to give credit to Mr. Future Nightmares because he made a decent. Wait, this is paused. Okay, that's another point. So this is the room he's talking about. It's actually a room when you. So for any person who's played Metroid Dread, this is the room where you have to go, where you go from Arteria, the first world, go into this, and you go to the second, like the lava world, Cataris. So in this room, I guess this is important. So here's the room on the map. So it's like right past the save room. Over here, I think, is where the... down here is where you fight the boss. And I believe this is the part of the game where you have not fought the... You did not fight the boss yet. So... Again, these X's actually are very important. So here's the room that he's talking about. It's like right after the save room, right when you get like the charge beam, I think, you can go into this room, and this is how you proceed to go to the elevator for Cataris. So, and this is actually I'll probably get a better shot. Okay, here we go. So, sorry, these are all the points that that he made. So, I think it's like right around here. Yep. So he gets stuck here for around like 30 minutes, not realizing that this is right here is the block where you can shoot and proceed. So his points were that this area, there's no, and this is the part that gets me mad. He says, well, it's not my fault because there were no visual cues to tell me that I can shoot these blocks right here, and it would open up and you can proceed with the game. And I'm just saying right now, that what do you mean there aren't any visual cues? There are enemies floating around right here, and and like, why wouldn't you? Like, I know you might think, oh, it's so arbitrary. Like, why? Like, who has the mind to start shooting everywhere? But you're not just shooting You're not just shooting anywhere. You're shooting at a wall where there is like, basically that's the barricade. The barricade is a wall. Why would you not shoot the wall? And again, you can say, well, and people will say, well, yeah, because that is Metroid, and that's not a bad thing. Like, if you come into a wall, you were supposed to shoot. And he made a point that, like, oh, and then, like, I don't know, was there a point in the game when there was, like, a tutorial teaching me to shoot that? Yes, there is. There was a game, like, it's one of the first things you do after the opening cutscene, and you start, like, progressing through the game. I think it's before your first, like, save room, or your first, oh, no, I think it's, yeah, right before a save room, or before the room where you talk to Adam for the first time, or something. It shows you, oh, look, it actually is, like, shown as a missile block. You shoot it with a missile, keep going, then you get to a room where there's actually, like, or you get to, in the hallway, before you get to the next door, sorry, my camera's all messed up, before you get to the next door, there actually is a wall, and it's all visible, like, okay, like, the room just stops, there's a wall, and then here's the rest of the room. So, the game, and there was a notification telling you, you have to shoot when it comes, like, in these situations, you shoot and see what blocks are breakable. So, he didn't do that here. So, you can't say, like, yeah, he forgot. That's not the game's fault. It's your fault for forgetting. And then I think at one point he makes a comment saying, like, again, like, how, like, everything just blends in. Like, no, look at this. Like, you have these, like, this is the part of, I want to comment about Metroid Dread's level design. The game felt, like, on my first playthrough, it felt so linear that it actually kind of gave me, like, some, like, really heavy Metroid Fusion vibes. And I kind of thought, it kind of stinks that the game's so linear and you get, like, kind of just set in, like, one strict path. But that is so untrue because I learned on my second playthrough that there were so many moments where you can sequence break. And some of it might take, like, some of it might take, like, additional tries, like, some additional tries of, like, really tedious puzzles, but it's all doable. Just like in Super Metroid, how unlinear that game was, or non-linear, like, you just have to know where to go, and if you're skilled enough, you can just get things completely out of order. So this game is actually not very linear at all, but it appears linear. And this is the beauty of the level design. The level design it doesn't like hold your hand and guide you, but it slowly leaves all these clues and like it guides you like subliminally. Subliminally, I can't say that word. Subliminally, it guides you along, and it feels linear, but it's actually not. And in this room, this actually is where you're supposed to go next. And there's enemies above this wall that you might think, here's another thing I actually love. I think there was actually a scene where he actually is shooting. I don't think I have the video with me, but David actually starts like in that room, and he starts shooting at the enemies that are in the room, but he's not even aiming. He's just jumping and like shooting like directly in front of him, like as if it's like an original Mega Man game. Like if you actually thought to yourself, well, I can aim in all directions to shoot these enemies, and so many other streamers have done this. Again, look it up. They are shooting in that direction, and then they start shooting the ceiling, and of course it breaks apart. So just naturally, you would start shooting at these enemies and hit the blocks and realize, oh look, I can go that way. Let's just say you didn't do that. There are visual clues. Look, the coloring here is different, and you might think, oh, well, that's just because of the lava here, and that's just good lighting. But like, no, it's there for a reason. That is like, look at this. You have these areas, like this whole area right here is basically like suspiciously telling you there's something here. Shoot it. So for him to say, like, oh, I have to go to every single room and just start shooting, like everywhere, like, no. That is completely not true. And apparently, also, Future Nightmares, is that your name? Yeah, Future Nightmares also mentioned that on his stream, David was actually high. Like, I think he was smoking pot. And again, I don't know where he's from. Maybe he's from a state in the United States where it's legal. But if you are under the influence of marijuana, you're not going to be thinking clearly. So that, again, that's not the game's fault. That's your fault. I'm sorry this isn't a game where you can just smoke a blunt and then just be, like, mindlessly going through this game. Like, if you have to use a little bit of your brain power, I'm sorry. Alright, the next point he complains about is the controller. And this part really gets me mad. I think it's around right here.
I didn't find the game too hard, like it was tuned really bad. At least not where I'd gotten to. But this, this is, I was playing with this, right? This is the default controller. This is what comes with your Switch, right?
Yeah.
And this is a nightmare to play this game with, okay?
I will just do one quick comment that, like, yes, the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controller, admittedly, is not the most comfortable thing in the world. At least, for me, it's not. And I've heard people who have really big hands can have trouble trying to hold. I wish I had the controller with me, but like, yes, it can be kind of tough if you have really large hands trying to hold that controller, hit the buttons, like their hands cramp. And to be fair, I have relatively small hands, and even my hand cramps up on that sometimes. But that's just that's a me problem. It's not a Nintendo Switch problem. And there is a Pro controller if you want to get more comfortable. But now that point's going to come up really soon.
I think, when I'm playing it on the stream and I have the chat telling me, oh, well, yeah, you need to get a Pro controller to play. Need it. And I'm like, nowhere on the box does it say this is for Pro controls, right? And I'm just like, you're making software first party for your main hardware. You're not doing it like with a peripheral, like the cardboard thing they did, or the Wii Fit. This is a base game that you play with your fucking Switch. And you're telling me that it's really bad? Because, I mean, these little fucking nub sticks are horrible to play this game. Because, and these, the game requires you to do a lot of, like, multiple, like, L1, L2, R1, charge Y, let go, right? And you're trying to do that really fast. And you're trying to do that with your character not moving. Okay, but a lot of times if you push up on the stick, so she's shooting up like a big boss eyeball, which I got to, you shoot up, but you end up shooting off to the right because your thumb has to be just perfect, at least on my controller, right? And all
right, so here's a point he talked about, is the controls. Now, I will be, at some point in the video, he does actually like comment positively about how Samus controls very well in the game. And it's true, the controls actually are really nice and fluid and snappy. But now his main issue is the actual controller that you're using. So the first comment is about how awful the Joy-Con controller is. And I can say, yeah, it's not the best. But then he comments, or he complains, that while playing on the stream, one of his viewers, again, just hear me out here, one of his viewers said, oh, well, you need the Pro controller. And he takes that so, like, I don't know, did you take it super literal where it's like, oh, this is the wrong controller? Like, as if you're playing it with, like, a Sega Genesis controller, and it somehow worked, but, oh, this is the wrong controller. No wonder I can't play the game correctly. Like, no, the streamer, or the viewer, was just trying to tell Dave, like, look, yeah, that controller kind of stinks. You should really, he literally said, you need it, but you can't take it literally where, oh, you have to play it on the Pro controller. It's the only way that the game works. That's just completely ridiculous. It's just a personal preference. like I said, I mean, I played this game. I played this game with the I played this game with the Joy-Con controller. I played it like on the go. Like I played it like on my couch with the Joy-Cons on the Switch, and and admittedly, it's not as good as the Pro Controller, but it plays just fine. So I have no problem with it. It's a personal standpoint, and from what I understand, a lot of people don't. This is the only time I've ever heard of someone complaining about this, like at least to this degree. Because I would say, yeah, if you have a Pro Controller, I mean, I would play it on the Pro Controller. In my experience, that's the best way to play Metroid Dread. I like playing it on my bigger screen TV. It just, that's just, like, I like sitting on my couch with the Pro Controller. It just fits better in my hands anyway. It's more comfortable. That's how I prefer to play. But it's not like the box of the game has to say, like, you can, like, buy the Pro Controller. I think at one point he even says it should come with the game if that's how you're supposed to play it. It's not how you're supposed to play it. It's personal preference. And then he starts commenting about like how he thinks the controls are bad because like, oh, you have to hit all these buttons all at once. Like, I'm sorry, have you not played like any other video game or like, I mean, God forbid you ever play something like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat where you're hitting like how many like crazy button inputs to like do these special moves. Like, yes, the game at some point may require you to shoot upwards and hold the R1 button to get your missiles ready. Like, and then he's complaining that, like, well, if I try to shoot up, my character moves. Like, you have to be, like, super precise when you hold up to shoot up. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's what the L button's for aiming. Like, that's the whole... One of the best things that Metroid Samus Returns gave Metroid Dread is the 360, like a free aim. If you hold the L button, Samus can aim in any direction. And he's complaining that, well, so you're telling me I have to hold that button to aim, and then hold up to aim up, and hold the R button to get my missiles ready? Like, yeah. And I'm sorry, like, that's a you problem. That's not a game problem. Like, again, no one else, and I'm not saying just for Metroid fans, like, really, like, I didn't see anybody having issues with this. At least, like, not to this degree. Sorry, my phones are all going off. But, so, like, I can't stand that, and I love how his justification is, well, one of my viewers told me that I need to have this controller in order for it to work. Like, that's such a stupid, like random, like, justification. Well, one of the viewers on my stream told me this, so that must be the literal truth, is that it only works with the Pro Controller. Stop it, Jeff. I'm sorry. David, sorry. Call him Jeff. Jaffe. Anyway. So I think he kind of keeps going there. Around this point, I have to comment.
I've never had an experience with drift on this thing. So when I was like, okay, that mixed with the fact that I'm like, I don't know where to fucking shoot in order to advance, and I could get stuck, and I'm like, okay, is it a map reading problem? Is it a puzzle problem? Is it the fact that I just haven't shot everything in every level? I was just like, that's just asking to be frustrating for me. So I wanted to share those.
It's a you problem, David. I'm sorry.
Because I thought, if you're considering getting it, I mean, I've heard it's very difficult, right?
It is. I will say, this is probably the most difficult Metroid game I've ever played. I've died so many times. But, anyway, we'll keep going, and I'll make my comment.
I don't like really difficult games, but I've heard some people say, no, it's not that difficult. I didn't play far enough. There was nothing in the game that was too difficult for me, other than what I've just explained, which that's not really difficult by nature of it being hardcore and you need to go get good. That's difficult in the sense that, you might want to let people know that you probably shouldn't play the game with this fucking thing.
See, again, like, at no point is it, like, where the game is so difficult control-wise that, like, oh, like, you're playing on the wrong controller. Like, stop with that reasoning. It does not make sense. That is a purely subjective thing for you and how you feel with those controls. So I'm sorry. And my friend. And one more thing, Dave. At some point, like, yes, the concept of get good does come into play here. Like, where, like, I'm sorry, like, you're having trouble. You're like me. I obviously didn't do great on my very first like hour or so. I mean, I love Metroid games, so I obviously was probably jumping into it better than someone who never played a Metroid game before. But like, at some point, keep playing, and the whole point of the game is to get better. Like, I don't like difficult games. Well, that's fine. Some people don't like really challenging games, but so this just so happens to be a very challenging game. And as long as that's your justification, where like, I'm sorry, this game is very difficult, it's just not the game for me, cool. That's perfectly reasonable for why you don't want to play the game. But he's trying to make it seem like it's difficult, and that's a bad thing as a whole. Like I don't know.
That makes it really hard, and you probably want to let people know that, hey, and again, unless I miss some visual cueing, there are parts in the game that you can only advance by shooting stuff and just hoping you get lucky. And I did have somebody in the stream say, well, that's Metroid. And I'm like, okay, well, that's shit. That's a shit piece of design that should be called out. If that is true, and there are rooms in Metroid that are not secret Easter egg rooms or secret bonuses where they hide cool goodies like in Quake or Doom where you go up against every wall and push, but this is literally the way you advance, is you just have to start shooting stuff if you get stuck and hope you hit something that's breakable that looks just like every other part of the level. I'm sorry, that's crap.
See, I'm sorry, like that. I have a video I think I want to show about this, like, maybe not, but like, was it right here? Yeah, like he's acting like as if you have to shoot. Here's one video again. Shout out to Future Nightmares for this. Like he talks about how like you have to go to just every room and start shooting everywhere. It's like no, Jeff, stop that. Like, and look, Metroid is like just like playing the original Zelda. Like that's a game. Again, it came out on the original on the original NES. The game was super. It was challenging and it's hard because you don't know where the heck you're going. You have to go and, like, bomb random walls, burn random bushes. So, in a way, yeah, you would have to be, destroying everything that looks just like an ordinary wall or bush to find hidden goodies, but also advancing the game. So, when it comes to something like this, like in Metroid, yes, the original NES Metroid game, especially that game, had just, like, everything looked the same in the original Metroid. There was very rarely where you have blocks that actually, like, stood out as if, like, yes, this is where I would say shoot or morph ball bomb this and you can advance in the game. And that is, yes, Metroid as a whole, but Metroid has advanced since then. Like, even in Metroid, it's been a long time since I played the original Metroid 2, but, like, I'm pretty sure there were some bombable blocks that did look like everything else in the game. They just looked like any other ordinary tile, but there were other visual cues, like, oh, look, here's a block right here, but then again, the hallway continues. Just start shooting or bombing, and I'm sure you'll find something. And Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, like, all these games do have those little moments where, like, yes, maybe some blocks don't look like... Again, mainly, yeah, the hidden goodies are the rooms where the tiles just blend in and look the same, but usually, where you have to progress, like, yes, you'll come to a room where it's like, okay, like, I'm at a dead end. Then starts, like, but that's the thing in Metro where, yeah, then you start shooting and laying blocks everywhere. I'm not saying, oh, I'm at a dead end, now I have to go back to all the previous 200 rooms and start bombing everywhere for something. Like, that's just completely not true. And so for him to say that design of Metroid is shit, I'm sorry, like, that cannot be stated as an objective fact. Like, it's not true. If it's his opinion, no problem. But stop saying that Metroid as a whole is shit because the game requires you to shoot things and to find blocks that can be destroyed and you can advance or progress. Like, God, his examples and his examples and reasonings are just so bad. Actually, I think this is actually where this one clip right here is what I want to show you. Like, look how he shoots. He shoots like he's playing like an original Mega Man game. Like, why are you not aiming and shooting everywhere? Oh, and actually, one point I will say, again, I think Future Nightmares did mention that while he was streaming, and you can kind of tell by his face, he was high while... Oh, yeah, I think I mentioned this right. He was high. So, like, I blame that. I blame your sense of not being able to think. So, anyway. Let's go back to this and see what his next point is.
But again, that's my take on it. Maybe you would see it and go, no, I could totally tell I had to shoot that. But
I could.
Hell, I asked somebody in the chat that was telling me, I said, how did you know how to shoot that? And he said something like, I think he said, oh, I saw it on a video or something. And I'm just like, it's a ridiculous concept. It's ridiculous to accept that that's cool. But again, maybe I just missed something. So
okay, like, yes, you did miss something. And again, he goes back to the whole thing of like, well, one guy in my chat said I saw it in a video. That's how I knew. So then that's what, like, so that means that for every other instance, like, every one of your viewers are agreeing somehow, or like that's the collective where like, well, I couldn't figure it out. I had to watch a video. Like, no, I'm sure the guy probably just watched a playthrough. Maybe but it's possible that maybe he watched a playthrough before he got a chance to play the game. And I'm talking about the viewer that was talking to Dave. Like, So that's how I knew. I watched a trailer, or I watched a gameplay demo, which actually I think I saw too. I think in one of the original like demo videos that were being done by the Treehouse, I think they showed that exact same room. So yeah, I kind of like knew ahead of time that's where I have to shoot. But like any other Metroid fan, especially, would have known just to keep shooting everywhere in a room like that. When you come to a dead end, okay. Especially when you see aliens and you see monsters and you see a hallway right there, why would you not think to yourself, well, maybe that wall is breakable? Ugh, gosh, it gets on my nerves. Like Dave, you can't stop using the reasoning that, well, one person on the chat told me this, so it must be true. Like, stop it. Just stop it. All right. Gosh, I'm getting so mad right here. I think his next point is about the art style. This part is a bit more forgiving because, again, it's like, what was I going to say? Oh, well, actually, before I get to that, let me talk about this. This is a video I wanted to talk about, and shout out to Liam Talks, because he does a really good job showing that, like David Jaffe was trying to, this is actually during his revisiting of the game, and he was trying to justify, like, again, this room. And he says, well, actually, I'm sorry, my camera's in the way. Here we go. So, he tries to justify that, like, when you go to this room, he was stuck. Well, now I have nowhere else to go. I should just start going back to every other room and start shooting. He's like, oh, well, like there's, like, so, and he tries to justify this by saying, like, how would I know that? If I go over here, I can go this way. And he realized, oh, wait, no, I can't. The door's stuck. Oh, there's an obstacle that you literally can't get past. Or, I'll go through this door. Oh, wait, no, I can't go there yet. And the guy starts, and again, Liam does a good job, like, marking off, well, yeah, you can't go this way, you can't go that way. Like, the game guides you to this room. Why would you not think of, like, admittedly, see how the blocks here, this actually is, these are the shootable blocks, and yes, I'll give David some credit that if you check the map, these will not be shown until you shoot them. But that's the whole point, is that, like, the game slowly guides you to this room, and now you're stuck. So that's why, like, all I'm trying to say is, like, you can't use the justification where, like, the game says you can go anywhere you want, and it's like, no, like the game slowly guides you to this room. That's the whole point. That's the beauty of the level design. Anyway, so I had to make a comment on that. So let's go back to his next point where he talks about the visuals.
No fun for me. The last thing is, I just thought it was a very bland.
Oh, I think I missed the point.
There's so much to play that I have no patience for playing something that's going to go back to playing. I want to finish Kenna. I want to start Psychonauts 2. There's so much to play that I have no patience for playing something that's going to just be frustrating. But the point is, I heard it's hard too. So if you throw all those things I didn't like together with the fact now that, hey, you're about to have some hard shit coming up, fuck off. No, thank you. No fun for me.
Okay, again, the next point is the visuals, but this is the final point I'm going to talk about where it comes to, like, the difficulty of the game. Yes, the game is tough, and it does get harder, I'm not going to lie, but that's, like, one of the core concepts of games, is the games get progressively more difficult. It's not just the same thing every single time, and it's all just puzzles, or, you know, like, I think it's because he has the mindset of a modern gamer, and in modern games right now, a lot of it is very cinematic. I'm not saying God of War is just like a purely cinematic game, but, like, there are so many games right now in modern gaming that are, like, I guess an example is, like, the Metal Gear series, and no, not all games are like this, but, like, games are getting so cinematic where you are, like, playing an interactive movie, where it's, like, just a couple of, like, what do they call it, QTEs, quick time events, like, and just, like, kind of just moving your character along a movie, like as if you're playing, like, Until Dawn. But no, this is just a simple, basic, core game where the game is initially challenging, fair enough, and it might be challenging for, like, more challenging to some people than others, and the game gets tougher, and he just says, oh, well, I'm not playing it because it's going to get harder. Like, I'm sorry, but that's where I just have to say, and Cranky, take it away. Get good. Like, at that point, if you don't want to get better at the game, that's your fault, not the game's fault. Like, the game can be challenging, and it is, I mean, I don't know, maybe to some people it's not. It is so rewarding when you beat some of these bosses. At least to me, I felt very, very rewarded when I finally beat one of the Emmys, when I finally beat some of those really difficult Chozo robot bosses. I think of all the bosses, like, it was that, like, what was the Chozo robot bosses that became, like, mini bosses. They were super challenging when I first started playing the game. And then there's the one, like, flying bug enemy that gives you the the seeker missiles. Like, yes, that guy was like super challenging for some dumb reason. And you can say like, yeah, there's some difficulty spikes in the game randomly for certain bosses, but then eventually you learn their patterns, you learn what their weaknesses are, you learn when to shoot and where to shoot them. You just get better at the game, and you get better with the controls, and then eventually you beat them, and then you feel so rewarded. Like, I'm sorry that it might take, like, I mean, for me, maybe I'm bad at games. It took me, like, multiple tries trying to kill these bosses, but when you finally do, it's so rewarding, and that's, I think, the whole purpose of playing video games. Like, I mean, I'll even give some credit to some games like Ghosts and Goblins, which is like initially one of the hardest games I've ever played. And in some cases, that's where there is some bad game design, because like you have actual bad things where like enemies spawn randomly on your character. It's like, well, okay, well that's just like actually unfair because it's unavoidable damage. But like that is a game where if you do beat it, it is probably one of the most frustrating games to play, and I'm sure it's one of those games where even though you finally beat it, you might not think, cool, I can't wait to play it again. But you do get some kind of satisfaction by finally saying, hey, I beat the game. And I feel like Metroid Dread is definitely one of the shining examples where like there's so much to look, like there's so much I can't even think of a word. I guess just I guess I'll just go back to you're proud of yourself. You're proud of yourself when you finally beat these bosses. So the fact that he doesn't even want to bother getting better at the game, like, I'm sorry, Dave, this is exactly where I had to say, it's get good, like, just get good, or just don't play the game. And, obviously, like, that's what he's doing, he's not playing the game, but, like, then don't, but that's not the game's fault, that's your fault. That's my problem. You can't say, I'm not playing the game anymore because it's a bad game, because of how difficult it is, combined with the controller issue, which, again, oh, gosh, stop it. You can't say that the controls are amazing and then say, oh, well, you hit three buttons at once. Stop it.
The last thing is I just thought it was a very bland looking
here we go.
game. I don't need art to look realistic or photoreal, but in terms of, and I know the levels would change, every now and then you got to like a really great background that almost felt like, you saw animals in the background, like some kind of dinosaur shit, and it was like, okay, this is really fucking cool. But 90% of what I played for 2 hours was just sterile metal hallways. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced license title in terms of the visual set. It just looked very repetitive, and I'm not saying the whole game's like that, but it was very strange for a $60 AAA first-party game to have such a uninteresting visual design, especially given, I mean, this is not, Yoshi's Woolly World was gorgeous looking.
It was.
And that was a 2.5D game. The Kirby's Yarn game was gorgeous looking. That was a 2.5D game. It's not a prerequisite to make a 2.5D game. Your environments have to be so similar. And I understand maybe it fits the fiction, but the fiction's fiction. You can change it to make it more visually enticing. It was very...
So, again, this is probably one of the more things, again, this is very subjective. Art is subjective. Art style is subjective. Art design, visual design is very subjective. I completely understand that. But, so if he were to just say, well, I felt that the first area of the game, which he only really played the first area, Arteria, and he's like, okay, well, it's all just metal hallways and it's very bland design. And okay, but like you said, you only played for 2.5 hours, and he obviously didn't get very far. Once you get to the other levels, again, so spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't played the game yet, but you go from somewhere like Arteria, which has very bleak colors in the cave systems, and there are metal hallways, and which, I'm sorry, the Emmy zones are supposed to look, especially when every world has the Emmy zones. Like he was probably talking about the Emmy zones. That's their design. They're supposed to be these cold faded metal hallways to trap you in, and to kind of make you feel like you're confined when you're going up against the Emmy. Because if you're in a much more open area, then it's kind of easier to dodge these things. But you're meant to be in an enclosed space to fight these Emmys, or more accurately to run away from them. So that's the whole point of Arteria. I think, especially early in the game, is Arteria, to kind of give you that sense of dread. These dreadful colors that kind of make nothing's early in the game, nothing is beautiful and shiny and full of rainbows, or with very bright colors. Samus actually like kind of like stands out in that because Samus's design is very like colorful. But then again, as you progress through the game, you get to all the new worlds, and admittedly, yeah, this is again this comes down to him not being a Metroid fan, but it's a Chozo planet. So the Chozo have in this planet like temples and like statues and these laboratories. So although the areas do have like their unique themes, there's usually a laboratory there because it's a Chozo planet. It's like you're playing kind of like as if you're playing Shadow Complex, you know? Like, I mean, come on. And if you do progress to the other worlds, they do look amazing. Like, I'm sorry, like Cataris is gorgeous with all of, like the lava and the fire and the reds. I'll admit that Dairon is basically just one giant laboratory, so that's a bit of like a more bland area that's very similar to Arteria. Burenia is gorgeous with like it's like it's the water area, like gorgeous artwork in that game and in that level. And let's see, you got Gavarin, the jungle area, gorgeous visuals, gorgeous level design. And then you got Ferenia, like which actually is like a Chozo temple. Like you did, like Jeff. I keep calling him Jeff. Dave, you didn't get to these areas, so I'm sorry that early in the game is like possibly making you feel that sense of dread. And as you progress through the game, you start seeing brighter colors. You start seeing like new areas, and that's kind of the whole point of how this game was designed for progression's sake. So again, it's. Visuals can be subjective to some people. I completely understand that, but like, please don't say, "Oh, like you barely played the game." Anyway, I think there's one more point, and I think it's about the controller again.
Very drab. The controls were great though. Even though I have problems with this controller, the controls I thought, you're not going to find anybody in their right mind complaining about the fluidity with which this character controls. I think it's one of the best D controlling characters I've probably ever played. She feels just wonderful. But yeah, I shouldn't have to go buy a special controller to play this game. And if I should, then they should have let people know that on the box, or they should have packed it up.
He mentioned this. Well, the fact that he mentions it again is why I had to bring it up. Like, stop saying that you have to play it with this controller. Just stop. There's no logic with that. You're just. In some ways, it's almost like as if. I stopped on a really funny picture of his face. I almost wonder, like, was he trying to be this negative just for the sake of making this a point and for getting views? Like, well, everyone else likes the game. I'm just, because I had a bad experience with it while I was high on stream, like, so I have to justify it by saying, well, the game's just bad. I'm not bad at the game. The game's just bad. Like, for these reasons, and they're all subjective reasons. They're nothing that he said was objective. You were like Dave, like, you're so in the minority of people who didn't like this game. And again, nothing wrong with you not liking the game, but please stop saying that the game is clearly bad because you, a minority of the players that didn't like it. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's a 10 out of 10 game. I really don't think the game's 10 out of 10, but it is amazing. I'm still kind of trying to find like an actual score for it. I might make a review video for the game, but like, I don't know. Like he's acting like as if the game's like a 2 out of 10. Like, it's just. Like, he said himself, he deleted the game. He doesn't want to play anymore because of how bad the game is. It's like, I'm sorry, man. You had a bad experience with the game. All you had to just say was, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm bad at the game. I'm just going to move on to something else. But don't start justifying it by saying the game is objectively bad. Like, that's, like, no, stop it. All right. So I'm done. Again, special thanks for me, for Future Nightmares, and for Liam Talks for letting me use some of your stuff here. God, it's so frustrating just hear people like this talk. Again, like, I mean, I really shouldn't care, but when I just saw, like, him kind of just pointing out things that were just, like, that were all his subjective thoughts, but he was trying to portray them as objective facts, like, nope. Sorry, man. I had to make this video and talk about it. So, hope some of my Metroid fans and video game fans like this video. I'm sorry for all my collector fans out there. Don't worry, I have a few more videos that I want to make. It's just hard to try to find the time for it. And one more disclaimer, guys, please don't go after David Jaffe for these don't go after him, don't attack him verbally, don't like I know there's trolls out there, but like, this video is not meant to make people say, I'm not trying to target the guy and say go attack him. All I was trying to do was to take all of the points that he was making, and I wanted to give a counter argument for why you can't say the game is objectively bad. Everything that I said was just trying to prove that they were his subjective thoughts, which are fine, but you cannot objectively say the game is bad. Like, because you're in the super minority of people who think this way. Again, subjectively. Anyway, so thanks again for watching, guys, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.